Alrighty. Hello! Welcome to Shameless Plugs. I am Samantha the writer with J.A. George, who's also a writer.
I am a writer. Hello.
And you are joining us on Shameless Plugs, episode 3, the amazing spendacular Halloween episode.
And I have a cold, so I'm hoping my voice sounds extra Vincent Price creepy this week. That's what I'm hoping. I don't know what it does, but...
I mean, it's creepy.
Great.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm down.
But this is our podcast where we talk about reading, writing, entertainment, and of course we're going to plug our own work.
And we really are going to plug our own work this time,
We really are!
We actually have new stories posted, both of us do, so we'll get to that later.
Yes, we will. But, as we said, Halloween. Halloween is awesome.
Halloween is my favorite holiday. Period. It is October, my favorite month. It ends on a great note for me, or it starts on a great note for me. There's nothing bad about October. Nothing.
No, and I have to second that. October starts on a great note for me, ends on a great note for me. There's nothing yucky about October.
And Halloween is just awesome. It's the
awesome.
best. It is the best.
It's, yeah. I mean, what's better than, as a kid, running around scaring your neighbors and having them still give you candy? I don't know.
Nothing. There is nothing better than that. It
And then-
is scary and creepy and wonderful, and costumes are amazing, whether you're doing scary or funny or silly or whatever. I have done both. I've been a zombie. Back before zombies were cool. You've seen the pictures.
Zombie was good.
The pictures will be up on social media. I have been Chow Yun Bat,
Nice.
which was me dressed in a black suit with a red tie like Chow Yun Fat from Hong Kong cinema while wearing a Batman mask.
Yep.
I've been scary, I've been silly.
I started out as an alien one year, and then I didn't want to wear the mask anymore, so I turned into a choir singer.
That's a great transformation.
Yeah.
What other holiday could you do that?
I don't think there is one where you can go from alien to choir singer in the span of an hour.
Exactly.
I don't think there is one.
That's because nothing compares to Halloween.
This is true. So, in honor of Halloween, we are going to talk about books and movies that terrify us. Were supposed to terrify us and didn't.
Yes.
And then, same with movies.
Yeah, and then there are some that really shouldn't have terrified us, but did.
But did.
There's some... Both of us have a couple weird choices
We
that
do.
really should not be scary, and yet for some reason they got to both of us.
Yep. So, where do you want to start?
Take it away. You have a stack of books in front of you right now.
I do have a stack of books in front of me. Listen to this amazing sound. That is the sound of books.
That is the sound of books.
I love books.
I do love books as well.
So, let's see. Well, since it's Halloween, let's start with the ones that actually scared us.
Okay.
I think that's a good place to start.
I'm totally good with that.
So, when I was a kid, one of the books that scared the living bejesus out of me, and still does to this day, is The Hound of the Baskerville. Sherlock Holmes, Doyle. I love Sherlock Holmes. I've read all of them. I think they're a great read. But that one, no, not really into the dog
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
with the attacking and the scary. Also, I'm gonna do a throwback here.
Okay.
Wishbone. Do you remember Wishbone? It was
Yeah.
a TV show with a dog that
Yeah.
told stories.
Yes.
They did the creepiest rendition of that
Really?
as a Wishbone episode. It would start and I would turn it off.
So,
I could not watch it.
okay, I'm going to digress for a second.
Please
because
do.
one of the things that was on my list, this is Samantha had no idea the conversation was going to go this direction, because one of the things that, ironically enough, or interestingly enough, I guess, because it's not really irony, and because I'm a writer, I have to make that correction. Interestingly enough, one of the items on my list that should not be scary at all, but really creeped me out, was an episode of the cartoon Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Oh my gosh, I love that cartoon.
Did you ever see the Freaky Freddy episode?
I love that episode.
That episode, it's a fantastic episode, but it always creeped me out, and I'm feeling naughty.
I love that episode.
That episode, when we got to the portion of the conversation about things that should not creep us out but do, that was going to be one of the ones that I was going to mention. So you talking about Wishbone.
Oh, yeah.
Wishbone should not be creepy.
No.
And yet it creeped you out.
It did.
Courage the Cowardly Dog, yeah, it was a supernatural kind of horror cartoon, but it was a funny, silly one. It wasn't a scary episode. That episode creeped me out. And it was, for those of you who have not seen the episode, the premise is basically that there's a cousin, I think he is.
Mariel's cousin.
Mariel's cousin who comes to visit, and he likes to cut hair.
He does.
And he has recovered from his hair-cutting ways, but he's this close, and you can't see my fingers, but just take my word for it. There's very little space between them.
Yes, it's very close.
Yeah. He is that close to going back on his ways because he is feeling naughty. And the person who does the narration for the episode is so great and sounds a lot like Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah.
Kelsey Grammer has a fantastic voice. This actor, and I don't know who the actor is, actually. They do a great job. They're not trying to do a Kelsey Grammer impersonation. They just have that kind of same sonorous quality to their voice, and it just creeps me out because he goes through the whole episode nearly cutting hair and shaving things through the entire episode, and it's just so creepy. And I'm sorry for digressing off out of the Baskerville and
with love,
and
Fred.
Yes. Yes, that's how it ends. Yes. God, that's such a great episode of that show. But okay, so back to Wishbone and dogs and creepiness.
I don't know. I think it's the sound, like that barking, angry sound. It just really got to me. And then when I finally read the story through, it just I don't know. It just unnerved me enough that I was like, I don't want to do this again.
I could see it. I
so
could see it.
That was one that probably was supposed to freak me out and did freak me out. Actually did.
Yeah.
I have a second one also.
Go.
It's a more modern novel. It's called The Tale of Rawhead and Bloody Bones by Jack Wolfe. It's not scary in the way that it's written. It's just, again, it's unnerving. I'm more of things that I have to think about scare me more because I continue to think about them and they just make my brain run. So this book is that. It's about this, it's set way back when, and it's written in way back when speech.
Very specific time period, that
yes,
way back when.
That way back when is very specific. But it's, the main character is a surgeon, but he's psychotic, and it's kind of his relationship with medicine and the primitiveness of medicine back in the way back when.
Way back when, yes. Things were primitive back then.
They were, yeah. And it just, it's a little bit of it's a little psychological, it's a little disturbing, it's a little... But I really enjoyed the read. I mean, despite that, I kept reading it, and then I would just have to put it down and not read it at night, so...
Sure.
But yeah, it's good. I would recommend picking it up any time of year, but especially this time of year. Again, Tale of Rawhead and Bloody Bones, Jack Wolfe. But it is scary, and it did scare me.
Good. Well, you know what
Thanks.
I mean. You know what I mean.
Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. How about that? I'm glad it had its intended effect. If that was its... I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know.
Anyway.
I don't know if it was supposed to scare me or not, but it did.
So, what I am about to say is going to sound weird considering that I am a writer. There's very little fiction writing that has actually scared me. The reason being, you cannot see the look Samantha just gave me.
But it was made even better by the fact that I'm wearing skeleton gloves.
She is wearing skeleton gloves, that's true. Writing has never really scared me. As much as I enjoy the written word, and as much as I enjoy getting lost in the world of a book, the only stories that have ever really scared me were ones that I read when I was a kid. You know, the Scary Stories series by Alvin Schwartz creeped me out as a kid.
Never even read it.
Poe, The Telltale Heart, that creeped me out, and that one it still kind of creeps me out. But it's the idea of that story. Those creeped me out because I read them as kids. And, for those of you who have listened to all the episodes of our show so far,
I don't know how this is gonna go.
you will have already heard we're getting a disruption on our recording equipment.
We are,
So,
and we're just gonna chill for a minute and let it disrupt away, because I don't know if it's actually gonna come through or not, but I'm gonna do a shout out to my husband who's calling us right now.
Yeah.
Hello, husband!
So, where was I?
You were talking about writing.
Oh, yeah. So, this will come as no
really
surprise.
specific on this podcast.
Yeah, this will come as no surprise to those of you who have listened to all episodes of the show thus far. Not shockingly, the things that have really messed with my head more and scared me are movies. There is just something about as immersed as I can get in a world of a story. There's something about reading the words on a page that puts a distance there for me that prevents me from really getting scared by writing. Movies, especially if my attention is focused, I'm in a dark room, and I'm wholeheartedly focused on the screen. Movies have scared me much more. Some recent ones were, well, this isn't that recent, but The Ring. The Ring, that movie terrified me.
Never saw it.
Don't. If you don't want to be scared.
I won't. No, that is not something that I'm going to do.
It's not a graphic movie. It's one that got in my head more than anything else. It's not gory. It's not graphic. It's just kind of disturbing imagery, and the idea of it was scary to me. Paranormal Activity, the first one, also creeped me out. It's another one where my mind filled in the details. And then some older ones, both of which I saw when I was a kid, which also contributes to the scariness. The Thing, the original John Carpenter movie, The Thing, or actually I think that was a remake of a movie from the 50s, I think.
I think so.
But the John Carpenter version of The Thing with Kurt Russell from the early 80s, that movie terrified me. It's also going to get featured in a future list, by the way. I already know that. And I know which list. It's just, you don't know which list, but I do.
And you heard it here. There are more Shameless.
Yes.
In Shameless plugs.
Yes. There are definitely more Shameless coming. But yeah, The Thing and the ending. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but the ending is such a great payoff to that movie. It plays into the terror of it so well, and oh, that's such a great movie. The other one that is an older one that I saw when I was a kid, and my parents probably should not have let me watch this at the age I was when I watched it, but there was a movie from 1981 called Ghost Story, and I didn't see it in theaters or anything. I saw it on cable, but basically, the premise is these guys who are now older they have a group that gets together once a year and tells ghost stories. Well, it turns out back in the day, they played a role in the death of a young woman, and now the young woman is maybe coming back to get revenge on them and their kids. But the thing that made that movie so great to me was it was all like the old guard of Hollywood, the big old Hollywood stars. Fred Astaire was one of the people in this movie. Douglas Fairbanks Jr., John Houseman, Melvin Douglas, all of those big old Hollywood stars were in this movie, and it was in the early 80s, 1981. So this was the twilight of their careers. I don't remember which one, but one of them actually died before the movie came out.
Holy moly.
Like 4 months or 4 weeks or something before the movie came out. So it was kind of the last hurrah for all of these actors, and the star power and the charisma of them gave it, the gravitas and everything, and that made it even creepier. So that movie just stuck with me. There was imagery in it, and the concept, it was creepy. But it's always been movies that scared me more than books.
I can get that. I don't watch movies, so I don't have that problem.
Yes, I'm aware. I'm aware.
But that said, there are definitely like movies and television shows I've accidentally watched that I should not have done that with.
Understandable.
So, well then, do we want to move on to books and movies that should have scared us but didn't?
Yeah. Take it
I
away.
think that's a good place to go, right?
Take it away.
So one that should have scared me but didn't was The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
I actually really enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
thought it was well done. I enjoyed the story. It wasn't scary at all to me. Like I could read it in the dark. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
with it being dark outside, I can't read in the dark. I'm not that
Yeah.
talented.
Right.
But you know, I don't know. It just didn't scare me.
Yeah.
I've had no issues with it. So, but I will say, and I'm gonna digress now. That silly series, Are You Afraid of the Dark, on
yeah.
Nickelodeon? I could not watch that.
Really?
Yeah.
When you were a kid or later?
Yes.
Or... Okay. Duly noted. Duly noted.
Could not watch it. So, anyway, but that's really I'm not one for scary things. So when I'm forced into reading scary things, like I was forced into reading Sleepy Hollow for the 2-person book club. Plug for the 2-person book club.
Yes. Yes.
And it's not J.A. and I.
I was going to say, I'm not a member of the 2-person book club.
No, my best friend and I have a 2-person book club. But I really enjoyed it. It was a good read. It was entertaining.
I actually feel the same way about that story. The ones that I've tried a couple times to read Stephen King.
Yeah.
It's his work has never scared me. And I'm not saying that he's a
Okay.
bad writer. I don't mean it like that or
Mm-mm.
anything. It's just his work has, and you know, I saw the TV miniseries It before I ever read the book. It was years later before I ever tried to read the book, and it just didn't scare me at all. Like, I've tried to read a couple of his books, and they've never scared me. I found the movies scarier than the books, not surprisingly.
Nope.
But honestly, even the movies didn't really scare me that much either. Like I saw both the original It, the movie series, did scare me back when I was a kid, but I saw the remake of it and it didn't scare me. It just, you know, Stephen King, again, not knocking Stephen King as an author, but his work has never scared me. Same with Sleepy Hollow.
Yep. And now this is going to be fun because it's stuff that should not have scared us but did.
Yes. Yes.
So, do you want to kick off?
We've
or-
already done one of mine, Courage the Cowardly
Okay.
Dog. Shouldn't have scared me. It's a cartoon. It was on Cartoon Network. It was intended for 7 to 10-year-olds. I'm gonna 7 to 12, let's say.
Something about that, yeah.
Let's say 7 to 12-year-olds,
Yep.
and yet it freaked me out, and I could still hear Freaky Freddy's voice. Cousin Freddy, I can still hear it now. I can hear it right now in my head. Should not have scared me.
With love, Fred. That part just made that episode all the better.
It really did.
My. Okay, so mine is a little novel called Great Expectations by the esteemed Charles Dickens.
Yes.
I had to read that. Had to. Very specific use of the word had to read that when I was a freshman in high school. And there's the woman in white who always stands by the fireplace. And she's slightly creepy in the book, but not crazy creepy. But I was binging that book to try to get it done because I had to read it for class. And then that night, I had a nightmare where the woman in white was just chilling on my steps, and she attacked me. And so therefore it scares me. I do not like that book. I never finished it after that.
Understandable.
Sorry, freshman English teacher.
You know, there's a whole Dickensian 1800s theme kind of running through the things that scared you.
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes 1800s,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
your Rawhead and Bloody Bones was 1800s.
Are you saying when time travel
Sleepy Hollow?
is about I shouldn't go there? I shouldn't go back that? No?
Probably
Yeah.
not. It seems to be a very frightening time period for
It
you.
was frightening. And then I guess I'll go more recent one that scared me, but I don't know if it falls under should or shouldn't because it's a different kind of scary, but the book On the Beach by
Okay. Okay.
Neville Shute. I don't know if that's how you say his last name or not, but I'm sorry, Neville. Um, it's if you haven't heard of it and if you haven't read it, I think it's even more timely nowadays than it was when it was written. But it is about a nuclear disaster on planet Earth, and slowly but surely the radiation is creeping south, and the only place that's safe is Australia. And it's about these people as they make their decision on how to live with this encouraging radiation. And it is a very good read, but it's disturbing. And I think it's
Interesting.
just because of the,
Yeah.
however you see the current state of events and however you see end of life choices. It's very it deals with that. So
You actually just reminded me of one that creeped me out a little, not massively,
Yeah.
but it's actually a book that I only know about because of you.
oh yeah,
Lexicon by Max Berry.
yes,
Lexicon, I'm not going to give anything away, but the basic premise is that words have power. Words have a lot of power. Language, actually, more so than words, language has power. And the way that language can be used to manipulate people and manipulate the way that we see the world. But there is something very insidious about the organization in that book that is using language to manipulate events. I don't want to give away more than that. It's a good book, but Samantha actually described it to me as an action movie in book format, and that's actually a really apt description of the book. I really enjoyed the book, but there is something. The book itself I wouldn't say that it scared me. It's not like it stuck with me and got in my head, but there is something very sinister about the organization in that book because it's so applicable to the real world, what they're doing, and because it's so plausible.
yep. I think that's what it is. There's a physical manifestation of language within that book, but
Yes.
it's not off base for what language has the potential to be.
Yes. I would recommend that book.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a plug right now.
Oh,
I'm
please
gonna give it a
do.
plug. I'm going to give it a plug. It is Lexicon by Max Berry. Very much worth checking out. If you are a fan of the written word or you want to read an action movie in print, check it out.
Cool. Well, so I think.
Well, I have
Do you
one
have
more.
one?
I have
Do you
one
have
more.
one more?
I have
All
one more thing
right.
that absolutely should not have scared me, but did. The movie The Neverending Story.
Yeah, that's right.
That movie creeped the bejesus out of me. And it wasn't the story in the movie. It was not the premise, although, I saw the movie in theaters when it was new. I think it was 1984, so it was, I was like 7, something like 6, 7, 8, somewhere in that range, so,
I'm just going to point out that John has referenced 2 movies that came out before I was born.
Yes.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
yeah, great. Well, good for you. So, moving on. The movie itself was not creepy, but there was something. It was very dreamlike imagery throughout the movie. The characters were very much like something that you would dream of, but that couldn't exist in the real world. And there was something about that imagery that stuck with me. Something about those characters that just creeped me out after the fact. It wasn't any of the plot points in the movie. It wasn't that any of the monsters in the movie scared me. It was just that vaguely dreamlike, surreal imagery stuck with me in a creepy way. So much so that, like I said, I was like 7 when that movie came out, and when I saw it, when I was a teenager, I think I was like 16 or 17, because I was like a junior or senior in high school, I had a dream about that movie that was very disturbing. It was these, without going into all the details, but these were characters that were not in the movie. There were these pigmen that in my dream were from that movie, even though they weren't actually in the movie. And some weird, creepy things happened in that dream. And then a few years later, that was actually a recurring dream that I had a couple times, the first one. But then a few years later when I was in college, so I was like 19, 20, 21, something like that, I had another dream where they came back. and it was a recurring dream, and their actions in that were, in the first dream, they actually wanted me to help them, so they weren't doing anything evil or sinister. They were definitely sinister in the second dream, but it was just something about that movie stuck with me in a creepy, not positive way.
I get that. It's crazy how those things get in your head.
So speaking of crazy, unreal things, Shameless time.
Ah!
Shameless. Here we go.
Shameless.
Here we go.
Shameless.
Glad there's a lot of excitement for this Shameless. So
it's the Halloween Shameless.
It is
how can it not be exciting?
it is the Halloween Shameless.
With extravagant hand gestures.
With extravagant hand gestures as I look at my phone to make sure I list my Shameless entries in the proper order.
Yes.
So, this episode's Shameless is going to be the top 5 obscure cryptids.
Ooh.
You're listening right now, and I know what you're thinking. What the HECK is a cryptid?
I'm sure that is exactly
the word. What everybody is thinking.
Exactly the word that people were using.
Exactly the word that people were using, HECK. What the HECK is a cryptid. A cryptid is a creature whose existence has yet to be proven. They are often the subject of myth or folklore. The most common examples are Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster. Those are considered cryptids. They are creatures that may or may not be real, but that people believe are real, they claim to have sighted and or interacted with, but they have not yet been proven by science. There is a branch of study called cryptozoology that studies these creatures. Chupacabras, another example of cryptids. So,
Right.
I am not somebody who, is an avid cryptologist, or whatever you want to call them. I don't know if that's actually the proper term. I'm just making that word up. But let's just pretend it's the real term.
Okay.
I am not an avid cryptologist, but I am a writer of speculative fiction. So I have to believe that some things that might be unbelievable are possible. And honestly, I think it makes the world a better place to believe that maybe the impossible is possible. I honestly don't want to live in a world where the impossible isn't possible, because that world is kind of boring and sucks to me.
And I have to agree with that.
So, whether or not you want to believe that these things are real, you don't have to. I'm not going to judge you. I don't know that I'm convinced that these things are real, but it's still fun to speculate that maybe they are. It makes life a little more interesting. So, with that said, on to the Shameless. So, coming in at number 5 in this episode's Shameless is... Oh, and actually I want to take a step back. Sorry. I want to do obscure cryptids. Because everybody knows Bigfoot. Everybody knows Nessie. Everybody knows Chupacabras. That's not fun for me. I want to do the obscure ones that you haven't heard of.
So this way, you go out and do research.
Yeah.
On the Google.
Exactly. Look on the Google. Look on...
whatever your other favorite search
Wikipedia.
engine.
Cryptids. I think it's cryptids.wikia.com. That's where I found some of the things when I was doing my research.
Yeah, so there.
Yeah, so there's kind of a plug for them. Number 5. Big Bird. Not Sesame Street Big Bird, because I know that's what you're thinking. It's not... This Big Bird is not yellow, and he does not hang with the Count and Oscar, and...
Does he have a nest?
He does. He probably does. I don't know.
Oh.
But he...
Does he have stripy legs?
I doubt it. I couldn't say for sure. But this cryptid was spotted in the 1970s. 1976, I believe, and in the Rio Grande area.
Okay.
It was a giant bird. But it kind of had simian and dinosaur qualities as well, which is what made it interesting to me. So this cryptid was like some kids saw it. It was only spotted for about like a week, is my understanding.
Whoa, really?
But there were like 4 or 5 sightings in this one area, all within a week. But it was it was a bird that stood about 5 feet tall. It had a wingspan of 12 to 20 feet, and it had like kind of batish wings, or dinosaur-like wings, and it had a very simian gorilla-like face.
Really?
with a long beak, and it had no feathers. So it was a very odd-looking
Yeah.
creature.
Sounds like a bat.
It was a very odd-looking creature.
Oh, it is quite odd.
I have a picture on my phone that I'm showing to Samantha, the writer, right now. It will also be featured on the Shameless Plugs Podcast.com website, so you can check it out there. But number 5 is Big Bird, and it only gets spot 5 because it was only around for a week.
I mean, that makes sense.
You know, you gotta have a little more endurance, a little more staying power if you want to get higher on the list.
I understand.
There. So, number 4, the Lizard Man of Scape Ore Swamp, South Carolina. The most famous sighting of this creature was in around like 1987, 1988,
Okay.
where it terrorized a teenager.
Oh.
This teenager was, I think, coming home from work around like 2 or 3 in the morning, and they had to stop to change a flat tire, I believe it was. That's my recollection of the story at any rate. And he saw this creature in the swamp, and it kind of came at him suddenly. He saw the red eyes, like, watching him from the swamp, and this creature, like, tried to grab his car, and then there were scratch marks on the car when people examined it later.
Oh my goodness.
You know, the mirror on his car was really badly damaged, and there were scratch marks on the car's roof and everything like that. So, but there was no other evidence. But the other people have seen it since then. But it's all within like a 5-mile radius or something of this swamp in South Carolina.
Sounds angry.
So it sounds very angry, and again, it's just there haven't been enough sightings for it to rank higher on the list. There hasn't been enough.
Peed in his cornflakes.
I don't know, but well, he's the lizard man, so he's probably eating like fly flakes or something.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
Yeah.
Just so our listeners know, because we were telling scary stories, I'm clutching a pillow and I'm wrapped in a blanket.
Yes.
Because
Yes,
scary
she is.
stories are scary, and you need pillows when you have scary stories.
You do need pillows. I mean, that is entirely understandable. Mm-hmm. So, number 3 on our list of obscure cryptids, moving on, are the Puckwudgies. Puckwudgies are about to become a higher profile cryptid. So, I honestly was torn on whether or not to put them on this list. And the reason why they're going to be higher profile, as Samantha laughs at me,
I just feel like maybe they should have scarier name.
well, wait till you hear about them.
Puckwudgie?
Puckwudgie.
Wudgie.
Wudgie.
It just seems like an unfortunate...
Well, hold on.
Okay, I'm
listen.
sorry.
So,
Judging.
They are about to have a higher profile.
Okay.
Because, and this is a segue for our next episode, one of the houses for in the Harry Potter universe, the Ilvermorny School of Witchcraft and Wizardry in the United States, one of the houses is named after these creatures. So, they will soon have a much higher profile. But
yeah.
they are a creature from Native American folklore. And the deal with the Puckwudgie, the thing that I find interesting about them is depending on which Native American tribe describes them, you get a very different description of these creatures. They're kind of like magical little people of the forest.
Okay.
So in Algonquin folklore, they're kind of like gnomes or fairies in European folklore. They are kind of more mischievous but good-natured. They're not really cruel. However, if you look at some other tribes, like the Abenaki, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that, they're mostly good-natured, but they could be... Oh, actually, I apologize. It's the Ojibwe tribe that considers them mischievous but basically good-natured. It's the Abenaki and other Algonquin tribes that see them as dangerous, but only if you are disrespectful to them.
Are they a West Coast?
They
kind of a
are
thing?
northeast.
Northeast.
They're northeast.
Okay.
Yeah, they're in the northeast. New England, primarily, I believe. So, but for example, the Wampanoag, and again, apologies if I'm mispronouncing, because here at Shameless Plugs, and I'm going to say this in kind of a joking manner, but I am absolutely 100% serious about this. We never want to be disrespectful
Never.
to any culture.
Nope.
So if I am mispronouncing, please feel free to correct me.
Yeah,
Let
absolutely.
me know on social media, shoot me an email, whatever, because we are always trying to be respectful of other cultures. So
Yep, we definitely are, and
I'm
it's, you know, unfortunately, we can't pronounce things right all the time, but it's a learning opportunity for us,
yes,
and we will treat you with the utmost respect as long as you are teaching us.
yes, yes. So I am reading this from a site called nativelanguages.org, but the Wampanoag tribe considers them as capricious and dangerous creatures. They may play harmless tricks or help a human, but they're just as likely to steal children or commit deadly acts of sabotage.
Oh.
So that's why, you see now why they're in third place on my list, because I find it fascinating that depending on which group is describing them, they're all describing the same creatures, but they could be harmless pranksters or they could be child stealers. That's kind of fascinating to me.
Poor children.
Poor children. Poor children.
Poor
And
children.
to segue into our next episode of Shameless Plugs, it's our Harry Potter episode of Shameless Plugs. Hence the connection between this Shameless and next episode, because I want to see what the Puckwudgie house is going to be like. I haven't read, I know that there's some information up on Pottermore, but I haven't read through it yet. So maybe that'll be part of our next podcast. Our
It
next
may
episode.
be. We'll see.
Yes.
The Harry Potter episode will definitely be interesting.
It will definitely be an interesting one because we are in completely different places when it comes to Harry Potter.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Number 2. This one is... We're getting into scarier territory now.
Yeah.
The Popelic Monster.
Ah! Poor Pope.
Popelic Monster.
Was that appropriate? Oh my goodness.
There's a picture on my phone that Samantha is reacting to right now.
Whoa.
The Popelic Monster is... People have died because of this.
What?
Not because the Popelic Monster has killed them, but because people have gone looking for the Popelic Monster. And the thing about the Popelic Monster is it is named after the Popelic Trestle. It's a bridge near Louisville, I believe.
Oh, we're getting closer to home.
Yes, we are getting closer to home, but there's this trestle that is a train trestle that trains go over. People have been killed because they have been looking into the folklore of this creature, and they've been hit by trains, or they have tried to escape by climbing down the side of this trestle. Well, it's a very high trestle, and people have fallen to their death and things like that.
Oh.
So it's scarier territory, and also it's kind of a scarier creature. It's kind of a human-goat hybrid.
That's what it looks like.
And the kind of the multiple origin stories of this creature. It's got fur covered goat legs. It's like a white creature with a weird goat face. It's got horns and everything, but supposedly like it uses hypnosis or voice mimicry to lure trespassers to the trestle so that they can die.
What?
They can get killed by a train.
And this episode just got creepy.
Yeah, other stories claim that this monster has jumped down onto the roofs of cars.
What?
Of like cars that were driving under the trestle.
Ah.
And some other stories claim that it attacks its victims with its axe. So the Popelic Monster is definitely malicious. It is not like the Puckwudgies where maybe it's just kind of a prankster. This thing is mean.
I'm not gonna go there.
I am not either, but there some of the kind of the alternate versions of its origin story, because again I refer to it as an origin story because I'm a comic geek, but it's a circus freak who vowed revenge after it was mistreated, and others it's somebody who escaped. It was a creature that escaped after a train derailed on the trestle, and then in another one, and actually that's linked to another legend about a ghost train that travels along the trestle. So the Popelic Trestle is kind of a hotbed of activity.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
In an upcoming podcast, maybe in the near, maybe in the far future, we're gonna do supernatural things.
We're absolutely going to have a supernatural conversation because we have some I think they're interesting viewpoints on that.
I agree. But there are viewpoints, so...
Yeah. But then another version is that it's actually the reincarnation of a farmer who sacrificed goats to Satan and was brought back in this human goat hybrid form
Oh.
because of the sacrifices.
My
But in any
goodness.
event, the Popelik monster is a nasty creature that you don't want anything to do with. There was a movie made about it. It was like a short film,
What?
and they actually had to have a disclaimer before the movie because they were afraid, the people who lived in the community were afraid that it was going to encourage people to go climb on the trestle, and it actually, I don't know that I can't blame the film for this, but like I said, people have died trying to
Nope.
investigate this urban legend.
Nope.
And
Nope.
I personally want nothing to do with it. I'm not going to investigate, but I am going to, like the people who live in that area, I am going to make my communities do my community service by saying, please don't go to the Popelik Trestle. Please do not try to investigate this creature, because whether it's real or not, kind of inconsequential, because horrible things could happen to you because of a train or because you're climbing on a trestle that you shouldn't be on. So stay away from Popelik Trestle. Number one. Number one. And this one, Samantha actually has a connection to this one that we'll get to in a little bit. But the Frogman of Loveland.
Ah! And now we are right at home.
We are very much right at home. Loveland, Ohio is a suburb of Cincinnati. I could be there in 20 minutes.
I used to live near there, like 5 minutes.
Yes. So Loveland, Ohio is a suburb of Cincinnati, and the Frogmen of Loveland are amphibious humanoid creatures. They're 3 to 4 feet tall, I believe. First spotted in the 1950s. There was a businessman who spotted them on the side of the road, and he sat and watched them because I think there were 2 of them or something like that, and they were like 2 or 3 or 4 or something. They were kind of congregating on the side of the road near where the Miami River. So this businessman sat and watched them, kind of almost like they were having a conversation on the side of the road. They were bipedal and they stood upright, but they looked like amphibians. They had, the webbed digits going on, and they had very frog-like amphibian faces, and they were hairless and everything, obviously. And one of the creatures had kind of like a wand that it held above its head, and sparks shot out of it, and then the guy took off, which I would as well.
I would have as well.
But almost 20 years later, in the early 70s, a police officer actually claimed to have seen them in kind of the same area, and he remained anonymous because for his reputation as a police officer and everything, but he saw like a creature in the road that he thought was like a dog. And when all of a sudden this thing darted in front of the cruiser and he had to slam on his brakes, and then it kind of scrambled over the guardrail down and headed down to the river. 2 weeks later, another police officer in a very near area to that saw the same thing.
Yeah.
He actually got out and shot at the thing, though.
Oh.
And it scrambled over the guardrail and ran down to the river as well, but it kind of watched him for a little bit. But sightings of the Frogmen of Loveland have continued all the way up to this day. Like, I think the last sighting was last year, where people have reported seeing them. And like I said, Samantha has a personal connection to the Frogmen.
I do. I have never seen the Frogmen of Loveland, but nonetheless, they have freaked me out. So my same friend, who's part of the 2-person book club with me, has seen one. She used to live near the river, and I've been down to the river a lot, and she was walking her dog one night, and she saw it in the woods near the top of her neighborhood, just stand in the woods watching everything go by, and then the dog saw it and barked, and it scampered off kind of similarly, just kind of ran off into the woods. And then so of course she was kind enough to share that story with me on a dark evening when I was going to have to drive right by that spot, and I'm a scaredy cat, and so I made it home, but I was terrified because I had to stop there. I'm like, if I see anything in the woods, I'm gonna need to clean my car. So I that's one that I think is probably out there somewhere. It's, it is right in our home territory, the backyards of Cincinnati.
And I'll admit that's honestly part of why it's number one for me, because it hits close to home.
Yeah,
And,
it is.
Here's the thing. if I'm going to put together the list, I'm going to put together something that has personal meaning to me. So if you want to disagree, you don't think they're terrifying, that's fine. Just get your own podcast, and then you can make something else number one. So, sorry, listeners, I'm really not trying to alienate you.
If you do disagree with anything that we've said this evening and would like to send us any hate mail, you can send that to wedon'tcare@hatemail.com.
Yeah. There you go.
That would be the best place to send that. This is an opinionated podcast, but it's also a respectful podcast.
Yeah,
and
we do really want to interact with you, though. All kidding aside.
Yes, we do. We do want to interact with you, but we want to interact.
We won't be jerks, we promise.
We want to interact in a positive and conversational manner.
Yes.
Negativity is just that. It breeds it. It ruins things.
Feel free to disagree.
Yes, absolutely.
Just don't be a jerk.
Yeah, don't be a jerk. Just send us your opinion and
I'm happy to have a discussion with anybody who's listening.
Agreed.
Just don't be a jerk. That's all we're asking.
Yeah, that's all. I mean, it should be easy.
Yeah.
Keyword being should.
Yes. Yes.
So
I think that's it other than our plugs.
Are we there? We're
at our plugs.
We're at our plugs?
Yes. Please go first.
Yeah, so...
Ladies first.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So, we are plugging our own work.
Woo!
Yay! You can find links to our stories at shamelesspluгspodcast.com. They will route you to our individual websites where you can check out our new stuff as well as work that we've done previously.
Yes.
So we both decided that flash fiction is where it's at right now. So flash fiction, for those of you who don't know, usually a short story that comes in under 500 words. It's a really great challenge for you if you're a writer or just writing in general or if you want to have some fun. So we both wrote flash fiction stories.
Yes.
Preview, mine is called Open Road. It is set on the back roads of Ohio, and your lovely narrator is driving along, and it's kind of a competition between her willpower and what she really wants.
All right. Mine, I'm actually going to do something that I think is interesting with this one. I am posting the flash fiction version on my website. It comes in at, as Samantha said, the goal is to stay under 500 words. Mine comes in at 498. So, I struggle staying under 500 words. So, I'm going to post the flash fiction version, but I am also going to, and this probably will not be up for a couple weeks, but I am going to post a longer version as well, just because I want to kind of experiment with what I would do differently if I had written it as a longer story. So, I want to see where that kind of takes me, because I think that instead of just adding detail, I think I'm actually going to change some of the story beats. I'm just anticipating that.
Yeah.
As much as I am a plotter, I am not actually going into this intending to change things.
But how did you write your story?
I totally pantsed it.
Yeah! Totally pantsed it!
I totally did this one as a pantser. Preview of mine is called What Wrath Wondered. One of the things that I have found that I do is when I write shorter fiction, I take characters from the novels and the longer fiction that I have in mind, and I kind of experiment with them. I either do things that are story beats that I want to explore in the longer works, and I just kind of explore them in the shorter fiction, or just put them in a scenario and see how they react. The reason why I bring that up is because my story this time is a character named Scales, who is actually featured on another short story that I have on my site already. He is a character from a novel that I am planning but have not yet started. I have not actually fully plotted this one yet. I just have I know the basic premise, but I haven't actually plotted it out. So this is actually this story is the first time I actually decided what the names were going to be of the other three other major characters in this novel. So, and this actually is, to bring it back to the theme of this episode, Scales and the other three it's kind of a horror story.
Oh.
It is, I don't want to give anything away about what the story is, but it is connected to very much a horror concept. It is... I wouldn't say that it's actually a scary story, because that's not the goal for it. It's kind of a action horror? I don't know how really to explain it other than that. Honestly, I would see this more as a screenplay than a novel, if I'm being honest. But
And unfortunately, neither of us can help the other one describe our stories because we haven't read the other one's
yeah, we have
story.
not shared them with each other.
Yeah,
and that's
so...
kind of intentional.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so, anyway, What Wrath Wondered, the flash fiction version will be up, the longer version will be up in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Well,
With that said, I think that's it for our Halloween episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it.
Halloween.
Enjoy your Halloween.
Halloween.
Visit us on social media. You'll see pictures of costumes and things like that. My costume this year, I can't wait to show it off.
I'm excited for John's costume.
I'm actually wearing it to work. It's kind of work appropriate.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So we'll see it at the work.
Yes. Yes. So, yeah. Hope you enjoyed.
Cool.
See you next time. Thanks,
Yep.
everyone.
Bye.